Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy is undoubtedly one of the greatest movie trilogies of all time. It can easily compare to highly acclaimed trilogies of the past, such as the original Star Wars trilogy and Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather trilogy. Although the movies are no doubt technically very well done, there are reasons that this trilogy sticks out as much as it does. The easy answer for me would be the complexity and the extreme realism it has whenever it comes to the stories, the messages, and the characters. There are many complex things whenever it comes to this trilogy, and many of them have already been talked about throughout thousands of video essays on YouTube. But today, I wanted to touch on another part of this trilogy that I believe is overlooked and not paid as much attention to as it should be. Today, I'm going to be talking about the importance of falling and rising in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy. Before I get started, this video is going to be in 4 different parts. The first 3 parts being an elaboration on how each film implements the fall and rise of the main character in the trilogy, Bruce Wayne, and then the final part, a conclusion on how all of it connects to real life. I hope you all enjoy this video essay, for it takes a long time to make these, but other than that, please sit back and enjoy the video.
He's here. Who? The Batman.
Batman Begins is the first installment in the Dark Knight trilogy, and to me, is the weakest feature in the trilogy. But besides the fact, it's still a very strong film in itself. If you're watching this video, I'd assume you have already seen all the movies in this trilogy, so I don't think it'd be necessary for me to summarize all of them. In the beginning of Batman Begins, Bruce Wayne is introduced right away as a young boy who is playing with a good friend of his, Rachel Dawes. Rachel and him are just playing around as kids their age usually do, and then Bruce runs and hides from Rachel. When Bruce hides from Rachel, he falls into a deep well that he soon finds out is infested with bats. Soon after, Bruce's father, Thomas Wayne, comes down into the well to help Bruce get out. Later, after this incident, when Bruce is recovering, Thomas Wayne tells Bruce something very interesting.
And why do we fall, Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves up.
These words provide a lot of meaning for Bruce whenever it comes to the development of his character, but I feel like Christopher Nolan is trying to tell us something very specific here. Let's take a little bit of a closer look at Bruce's falling into the well scene with that quote from Thomas Wayne in mind. Bruce falls down into the well on his own, but because he is just a little boy, this easily injures him and he isn't able to get out of the well on his own. He needs the help from his father to rise after he has fallen on his own. Now let's listen to that quote again.
And why do we fall, Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves up.
What Thomas says is a very great and truthful quote, but in this case, it isn't technically true to Bruce. Bruce doesn't pick himself up. Instead, his father picks him up. A lot later in the film, something very similar happens. Bruce falls again on his own whenever Ra's al Ghul lights his mansion on fire and a wooden beam falls onto him. Again, instead of getting himself up, Alfred has to help Bruce rise up. Soon after this happens, Alfred tells Bruce something very familiar to Bruce and to the audience.
Why do we fall? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up.
Again, like when Bruce fell into the well, this quote isn't true to Bruce. He didn't get up by himself. He needed Alfred to help him get up. Let's keep all of this in mind and we'll come back to it later. Now let's move on to the second installment of Nolan's trilogy, the highly acclaimed The Dark Knight.
All you care about is money. This town deserves a better class of criminal. And I'm gonna give it to him.
Out of all the films in Nolan's trilogy, this is by far the most praised and known movie of the bunch. Saying this, there are many great things about this film, such as its impeccable villain, its complex story, and its perfect structure. Stating all these things, there is something peculiar about the ending that I believe connects with what I explained about Batman Begins. At the end of the film, Harvey Dent, or Two-Face, takes hostage Commissioner Gordon's family. When Commissioner Gordon arrives to save his family, Harvey Dent also takes him hostage and begins threatening him and his family. Batman, or Bruce Wayne as we know him, soon shows up to save the day, but Harvey Dent never gives in. Bruce, saving Gordon's son, has to tackle Harvey Dent off a high point, which leads to a long fall. Bruce successfully saves Gordon's son, but isn't able to save himself and falls from the high point. Soon after, Bruce blames everything Harvey Dent did on himself and vanishes into the darkness while cops chase after him. In this scene, Bruce, like in Batman Begins, falls by his own will, but this time he never rises back up. He stays at the bottom level of the building and vanishes in the bottom level. Let's play the quote from Thomas Wayne again to see how it compares with this scene.
And why do we fall, Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves up.
This quote means nothing to Bruce. He doesn't rise up at all, not even with help. Although this is true, Bruce had the choice to be risen up with the help of Gordon by truthfully blaming everything Harvey Dent did on Harvey Dent. But instead, Bruce chooses to lie and put everything on himself, which causes him to stay in the darkness, denying himself to rise up. Transitioning into the final installment of Nolan's trilogy, let's keep all of this into mind.
Bane, let's not stand on ceremony here. Mr. Wayne.
The final film in Nolan's trilogy, The Dark Knight Rises, is most of everyone's least favorite of the bunch, but to me, it's an exceptional film that does a lot of things right. In the beginning of this film, Bruce is already in a dark place, hiding from the world and disowning Batman. He soon comes back though, due to the fact that the villain Bane appears in Gotham City. Late-ish in the film, Bruce and Bane duel it out in the sewer system where Bane has his underground army. Bane outduels Bruce in this scene and breaks Bruce's back, causing him to fall once again. This is soon signified even more whenever Bruce is transferred into the pit, a place that Bane calls Hell on Earth. In this pit, the only way to escape is to climb out and make an almost impossible jump. When Bruce is in this pit, he trains himself to gain his will and strength back after his fight with Bane. He soon gets strong enough to attempt to escape from this pit. He attempts to get out 3 times. The first 2 times, Bruce uses a rope strapped around him, helping him to get out of the pit. Each time he uses the rope, he falls to rise up from his falling. But finally, on the 3rd time, Bruce doesn't use the rope, signifying he's doing this absolutely on his own without any help from anyone or anything else. On this attempt, Bruce finally rises up from the pit, finally overcoming not being able to rise up without help from others and totally by himself. Let's use Thomas Wayne's quote on the circumstance in the trilogy.
And why do we fall, Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves up.
Finally, this quote is one with Bruce. He has fully adopted this philosophy and has learned how to rise up after he has fallen. Now that we have seen each example of falling and rising in each film of the Dark Knight trilogy, let's talk about what this actually means and how it can connect to the real world. Looking back, in Batman Begins, Bruce falls in the beginning of the film, but is risen up with the help of his father, Thomas Wayne, signifying that he needs help to be risen up. He has not yet learned what his father soon tells him. At the end of the film, Bruce falls again, but rises up with the help of his butler, Alfred, signifying that he still needs help rising up. He hasn't fully learned what his father has taught him. In The Dark Knight, Bruce falls again, but neglects and forgets what his father has taught him, choosing not to rise up, but chooses to stay trapped below in the darkness. In The Dark Knight Rises, Bruce falls yet again, but after failing twice with help, finally rises up, but this time all by himself, finally adopting his father's philosophy. Now that we know all that's going on here, what exactly is Nolan trying to teach us with this? Well, for me, I believe that Nolan is trying to let his audience know that when you need it, it's okay to get help. Even in today's world, many people are too prideful to get help from others. They would rather fail by themselves than succeed with help from others. This is shown with each example from the trilogy. In Batman Begins, Bruce, a young fragile boy, needs help from others to rise up. In The Dark Knight, Bruce shows this pride in his character that many people have trouble with today. Even though he knows he needs help in this situation, he doesn't take it. He thinks he can overcome his loss to the Joker by himself when he really can't. He needs help from Gordon and others. In The Dark Knight Rises, he shows the growth in his character. This time he has to deal with his problem on his own, which is why he can't rise with the help of the rope. He shows that he can finally overcome adversity totally on his own without help by rising out of the pit without the rope. Oh yeah, also it's actually in the title, The Dark Knight Rises, so yeah. As of now, I just want to thank Christopher Nolan for teaching all of us something very important for everyone to know, through a medium which easily explains this and entertains us both at the same time. Sometimes people need help, and that's okay. There's no need to neglect it. We just have to continue to grow and continue to be more wise until it's finally our time to rise. Thank you all for watching. This is one of my first video essays, and I'm trying to get better at them as I continue to make videos. Just trying to kind of find what I want to do with them and the path I want to take with it. I hope this video helped you guys learn more about some of my favorite movies of all time. Other than that, I hope you all just have a great day. Peace out.